the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial. How can I convince you when your ears refuse to hear? You turn your heart away from me each time that I draw near. Your eyes refuse to meet with mine, they glance away in fear.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going over Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas. Catch the Free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger will inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon out of the sky and stop the sun.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8631.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. I am your host. I am Clay Douglas. And my guest today is Katherine Flint Swidan. I'll be getting to her in a few moments. Her son is imprisoned in China, and we're going to get her story, but in lieu of the fact that the Memorial Day is coming up, and that means this Sunday Rolling Thunder will be going on in Washington, D.C., as it has for, since 1987. In 1987, Corporal Ray Manzo, U.S. Marine Corps, from 1967 to 1969, visited the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., stopped at a booth to talk with fellow veterans. He learned for the first time that American servicemen had been abandoned in Southeast Asia and the end of the Vietnam War. This idea was counter to his Marine Corps training to leave no man behind, and he became consumed with the idea he must do something to bring attention to this issue and make right a terrible wrong. Ray attended a POW-MIA vigil sponsored by the Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Club. When the idea came to him, he would host a motorcycle rally in the nation's capital to show the country and the world that our prisoners of war and missing in action still mattered to their fellow servicemen and the country for which they sacrificed their freedom. From that day on, things began to happen quickly. He drafted a letter for a call to action and began mailing it to biker publications. He then enlisted fellow veterans from the D.C. area to help him cut through the red tape of requirements set forth by the District of Columbia. Sergeant Major John Holland was very experienced in D.C. legislation and included First Sergeant Walter Sides, and Sergeant Ted Sampley, an ever-present activist in Washington, D.C., jumped on board as well. These four veterans became the founding fathers of Rolling Thunder. But it was Ted Sampley's colleague, Bob Schmidt, who coined the phrase. He was staring at the memorial bridge and envisioning Manzo's dream and simply blurted out, "It will be like the sound of rolling thunder coming across the bridge." A sound not unlike the 1965 bombing campaign against North Korea, named Operation Rolling Thunder. The four decided that there would be no better date than Memorial Day to sponsor this run. Holland Sides and Sampley got busy securing permits and meeting with the mayor's task force and another D.C. activist, Ted Shipak, and perfected the Constitution or bylaws required for incorporation. Manzo worked on bringing in the bikes. His friend Larry Darko would be instrumental in rounding up the bikers who would come as far as the West Coast. They came from dusty hollows and bustling cities. Some came alone, others in convoys. Many joined up as they met on the long road to Washington, D.C., and in May of 1988, Ray Manzo's dream turned into a reality when thousands of bikes poured into the streets of D.C. for Rolling Thunder. Although Ray's dream was for a one-time demonstration to bring attention to the POWMIA issue, Rolling Thunder has struck a chord in the hearts of veterans everywhere from all walks of life. Veterans who could not attend Rolling Thunder vowed to return to next year, and so it continued to grow. Now celebrating their 25th anniversary, Rolling Thunder has grown into the world's largest single-day motorcycle event with riders from around the nation, even from around the world. They achieved their initial mission of greater POWMIA awareness and continue to support veterans from all wars. POWMIA numbers from wars following the Vietnam War have greatly diminished, and the treatment of returning veterans has greatly improved. This year, our government is issuing a proclamation to officially welcome home the Vietnam veterans, to compensate them in some way for the poor treatment they received when they first returned. Ray Manzo agreed to lead the efforts of Rolling Thunder 4 more years than he initially envisioned and relinquished his role in 1992. He will return this year to celebrate and honor the dream he had 25 years ago. Excuse me for getting a little emotional about that. Two places I can't go without tearing up. One of them is the Vietnam Vets Memorial, the other is the Alamo. And I still remember Waco, too, as well as the Alamo. Now, my guest today, Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Clayton.
I wanted to open up with that because I think your son, I just found out about this, about your situation yesterday, and I wanted to bring you on because your son he's not in the military, I don't believe.
No.
But he is certainly a POW, and I wanted to get your story known. This is Memorial Day. And your son, a 39-year-old artist, photographer, businessman, was detained in China over a year. He's been detained over a year.
Yes.
He's lost 100 pounds. He can't eat because he hears the stray dogs scream as they are slaughtered for detainee food. He's seen women beaten, tied to poles, and bloody men executed. There is no air conditioning, no heat, one hole in the floor for the toilet for 25 men. He's forced to work 14 hours amid heavy chemicals for Hobby Lobby, making silk flowers. He sleeps on concrete floor. State Department can't help. The news isn't picking up his story. You are brokenhearted. You're disabled, and you've used all of your savings to pay for his Chinese lawyer. They charged him with a crime he didn't commit. He says he will never confess to a crime he didn't commit. Now, all of the information is linked up on my website. That has your phone numbers. That has your information. This is a link to GoFundMe. This is a way people can make donations and help. What happened to the lawyer? Now, he says he was charged with something. Can you give us a little bit of a history in this? And what did you pay a lawyer for? Why is what has the lawyer done for you? This is a Chinese lawyer, and I want you folks that are listening to this to understand this is not necessarily a unique situation. It's happening in this country. We have people that are arrested and charged with crimes that they probably didn't commit or that shouldn't be crimes, and they're put into work camps, they're put into private prisons, and they're doing the same thing to Americans that they do to the Chinese that they did in China and that they're doing right now. So your son is really an example of this, except he's in a lot harsher conditions than most of the people here, because people here got some families that can look over them. You can't go to China, you can't check on your son, you can't help your son from here. So give us some history.
Well, I was told that if I tried to go to China, I would be arrested for interfering with the People's Republic of China. I had to get a lawyer for him because while he's in court, no one speaks English. So he had to have translations done. He was visiting in Hong Kong with his fiancée. Her sister lives in Hong Kong, and while he was there, he was also working for a company called ADM because there's a global shortage of helium, and they told him if you can find us a supply there, we'll take everything we can, and they're based in Houston. So they were also going to buy furniture, fixtures, because, as you know, flooring and stuff like that over there is like 7 cents a square foot, and they were going to ship it back for their new home. So they were going to be married in December 2012. But in November 2012, they were in the process of leaving the airport, and Chinese police stopped him. He's 6'2", 220, bald, has tattoos, and you speak about the Rolling Thunder. He actually built a motorcycle himself in our garage when he was here. But they looked at his credentials, and they said that someone saw an American involved with some kind of a drug crowd, and they pointed this finger of Patsy at him. Well, when it got to court, he got detained. His fiancée came back home. Of course, the wedding was off, and the State Department notified me he'd been arrested. But when it finally went to court, a year later, the Chinese that pointed him out could not identify him because they said all Americans look alike to them. And his passport shows he was never in China. He was in Hong Kong. So the State Department knows all this. They continue to lie. Senator Cornyn did a congressional inquiry, and the Chinese reported to the State Department that he had a cot with a comfortable mattress. He was eating a lot. He had access to hot water, which he does not, and he's not being made to work. And those are all lies, because his Chinese attorney told me, yes, Mark is telling the truth, and we're working on our human rights issues. But this is not you say he's a POW, and that's what I believe too. It's a silent, it's not a war per se, but it is a silent economic, political tug-of-war between China and the U.S. And the bourgeois mentality of Washington, D.C. ignores these people. No one has responded to me. No one will put this on AP News, and yet we see frivolous stuff on there all the time. It's like they're forgotten. and I used to be able to talk to him once a month through the consulate. And the U.S. consulate would sit with him, and they can't do anything. They said all they can do is make sure he's not being treated worse than any other prisoner. They actually, the guards make him mop the floor and scrub the floor on his hands and knees because they told him point blank, we want to be able to brag to our friends that we had an American scrubbing the floor. And he's ill, he has asthma, he has high blood pressure. After he saw an execution, which they were made to watch, he basically lost it. And the last time I spoke to him was April. And they let me talk to him for 10 minutes, and he said, Mom, I will either come home in a box of ashes or I'll come home on a plane to you, because they have tried really hard to make me plead guilty, and I won't do it, and as a result, I will need plastic surgery on my face when I come home. So you can imagine a mother, and I can imagine, I graduated from high school in 1969, and a lot of my friends are missing in action, they're POWs, and I told him, you have to be strong, do not kill yourself, that means they win. If POWs can go through 7 or 8 years as a POW, you can do it too. Just be strong, I'm doing everything I can here. But the government has just, because of so much trade that we do with China, they basically own us. And it is it's a silent tug of war. And now the State Department is making it even worse by messing with China continually, and I am afraid they're going to make an example out of my son. But he will never plead guilty to something he didn't do.
All right, let me ask you about what's the name of this company that he works for? This company should be responsible. This is an international company. They're dealing internationally. Why can't we put a little bit of pressure on this company here?
He is actually with the GMA Film Institute. He's an actor, a photographer, an artist, and ADM knew that he was in China through a friend of mine, and that's how they contacted him by email and asked him to do that. He's not actually working for them, but he was looking for a supply for them because there is a global shortage. So they would not be able to help or even get involved in that. And the thing about it is, I put this all over. I have been out tweeting. I've been on Facebook, and people just, they like his Facebook, my account of it, and then they go on about their daily work. They're not concerned, and this is a big problem of people that are just lost to the world. Like you said, it's not just him. It's many people from here. And it's a real tragedy that no one will even, actually the U.S. ambassador to China, I've contacted him and they won't even give me the courtesy of an answer, yes or no. They say there's nothing, that they have no control over the People's Republic of China and can do nothing.
Who said that? Who said that?
That is the State Department. John Kerry's office. They reported that to Senator Cornyn, and then I never heard from him again. Of course, it's election time, and they all, I've contacted Ted Cruz's office, I've contacted the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, every news agency you can think of, and no one will respond. And I'm sure they will once they find out he's dead. Then it'll become news. So I spend all my time trying to find someone that is going to get him out of there, because this is a travesty.
Now, what about Ted Cruz? What about Ted? What about Ted Cruz? Now, I see a lot of people trying to support him, want him to run for president. Frankly, I don't trust many of the politicians, because the politicians are I've been involved in presidential races before. I was the speechwriter, PR director, and bodyguard for a presidential candidate back in 1996. And every time he got up to speak because he wanted to restore constitutional money to the United States, take it away from the Federal Reserve, every time he got up to speak, they turned the cameras off and pointed them at the ground. So nobody in America knew Charles Collins was running for president. So any politician that's getting press and being covered by our controlled press, I'm frankly suspect of. What about Ted Cruz? What is he is supposedly fighting for America. He's supposed to be fighting against Obama and this current corrupt administration. But, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats, I frankly don't see any difference between the two. Two wings of the same bird.
No, I don't see any difference either, and it's really come to light now that I've been going through this. I don't trust any of the politicians at all, and as I mentioned to you about the movie V for Vendetta, I really believe that Obama was put in there for a reason, to drag the country down so far that whoever we put in, who they pick to put in, because I don't think we have actually any say-so in who the president's going to be, just like the Templars, they know exactly who's going to be president. And when they put him in, it will seem like a dream come true for Americans. That's the one we'll have to watch out for. Because this forgetting, they have no idea what normal people go through. This is they're so out of touch. And you talk about Rolling Thunder coming out of the woodwork to support the missing in action and POWs and not let us forget. I never saw a veteran that I didn't go up and hug him and thank him for his service. But I think that if it comes down to it and we're ever attacked, and it's going to happen, one way or the other, right now it's economically and political tug-of-war between the big powers. And if that ever happens, it's not going to be the president. It's not going to be the police. It's not going to be anyone who is concerned about the country in Washington. It'll be the good old boys. It'll be the Rolling Thunder. It'll be people coming out of the woodwork to defend America. Now, I love America. I'm just a real patriot, but I hate the administration for what they're doing to normal people. And you're either poor or you're rich. There's no middle class anymore. And I'm very disgusted that no one is doing anything to get my son out of there, and that he might lose his life. I was just told in April that in May I was expecting a phone call for him last week, and they flat out told me, we're not allowing any more phone calls, and the person who allowed him before is being punished by the Chinese. So I can't talk to him anymore. But in 60 days, they will sentence him, and they'll either let him go. They don't have a thing called time served over there. They will either let him go, or they will sentence him to prison, hard labor. And if they do that, he said he will kill himself, and because he can't take it anymore. And so what and one of the things they'll make him do is to exterminate the stray dogs for food. And he won't be able to do that. He's an animal lover, and he has 3 dogs here that I take care of. And I just keep sending letters, and they don't give it to him. They took everything he has, his pictures. He's forgotten, and as well as a lot of people are just forgotten. So I don't know how to get the attention of the press, and thank goodness for you, Clayton, that you allowed me to be on here and tell his story.
Well, I with this...
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order. The new world order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
Yeah, and if you'll buy that, I got a bridge for you over there in Arizona. This is the new world order. This is why, I mean, my career now spans pissing off 4 presidents. You know, the George Bush, a Republican, George W. Bush, CIA director, was working with the Mossad to bring the drugs into this country 30 years ago. Same time Operation Iran-Contra was going on, Operation Watchtower went on. And I was in contact with people that were involved with Colonel Edward P. Catolo that revealed this, and that man was William Tyree. They murdered his wife and they put him in prison for life in Walpole Prison in Massachusetts. And I had him on my show. I've tried for 25 years to make people aware of his situation. And he came on my show one time, and I told him, Bill, I sent copies of Operation Watchtower to Bill Clinton. And he started laughing at me. I said, what are you laughing about, man? Don't you think, I mean, Bush is a drug dealer. He's responsible for all the cocaine that's coming into this country. They're shipping it on Zapata oil platforms. They're doing this. They're flying it in. You know, Catolo told us they were flying it in. And he said, where were they flying it to, Clay? Where were they flying it to? They were flying it to Mena, Arkansas. Barry Seal, who I happen to have met, he flew the drugs into a little protected airport called Mena in Arkansas. Who was it protected by? Bill and Hillary Clinton. And he said, Bill worked for George Bush. He ain't going to say nothing about this. He ain't going to use it. And he was absolutely right. Clinton never mentioned the Operation Watchtower, never mentioned the fact that I sent it to him, and sure brought a lot of heat down on me. FBI or CIA threatening me, we're going to let you live this time, Clay, but don't do anything like that again.
I believe it, and I've been warned myself not to, by the State Department, not to contact the press, not to make waves because it might be bad for my son. And I used to cry a lot and sob a lot and worry a lot. And then I realized, I woke up and I said, I don't give a crap. This is my child. This is my good friend. I'm going to say what I want. And so far, no one has responded to me in the press, but they put frivolous stuff on there. Hollywood, that they don't have a clue what normal people live like and what they're going through. And I used to worry a lot and cry a lot, but I'm cried out, I'm prayed out, and now I'm just pissed off. And this is the last thing I do, and I'm trying to organize a demonstration across from the Chinese embassy, but I'm concerned that they may make it worse on him, and he's already suffered enough. I did get one package of artwork that he sent me, and ironically, something had been thrown out, the inside cover of a book, and it was 2008 about the elections, and he did his artwork on the inside cover of that book. It's on Facebook, on my Facebook, that you can see it. But even his friends that practically grew up in my house, they're no help. And so, you know, I sit here with no car, which needs to be repaired. I save every penny I can because I know if they set him free, he's going to need an airplane ticket right away. He's going to need medical help. And now I'm not allowed to talk to him anymore. So the State Department sits with him in front of a Chinese official and hears all these stories, and then they report back, oh, he looks just exactly like he did when he first got arrested, and I know that's not true. So they're just ignoring him. They have such a heavy workload. I don't know what they're getting paid for in China. I really don't. They're not doing anything for anybody.
Well, I've been warned too. I mean, okay, just don't do anything like that again. We'll let you live this time, but and the next time I revealed the whole 9/11 connection, and this issue of the magazine, by the way, will have the whole story about the nukes planted in this, the Israeli nukes. I've even got designs of it, photographs of the ones that they used to bring down the Twin Towers, and I won't quit. They can threaten me all they want. None of us get out of this world alive.
I'm very interested in that.
None of us get out of this world alive. And, there's been thousands of Americans that have died from cancer from the fallout from the Twin Towers. Thousands of New Yorkers. You don't have any idea how many, because they won't tell you. They won't tell you. And
well, Clayton, I really believe that there is a cure for cancer. The money is in the money's in the research, and they are. My son, while the other one was in China, my other son came down with stage 4 head and neck cancer. He's in San Antonio, and everybody wants you to donate to cancer, but when you try to get help to pay bills, to pay co-pays, one shot, a chemotherapy shot, was $40,000. He had insurance, but he had to pay the copay. And we couldn't get funding from anyone to help him pay for his normal bills just to live. He's got 4 little girls. And so the money is in the medicine. It's not in the cure. I firmly believe we have a cure somewhere.
Absolutely. I can tell. I've got, matter of fact, I got a guy coming on my show this next week. His name's Brunken, and Denton Brunken, and I've had cancer. I've had a couple of spots of cancer, melanoma. They wanted $500 to operate at the clinic in Albuquerque. I put a little bit of Denton Brunken's black salve on my arm. Hurts like hell for a day, and then it's gone. It eats it away. I've got other people.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. I've got other people that are from Canada that are now in exile in Bosnia or someplace like that. And you can see his website on, and it's called Phoenix Tears. He cured cancer. Okay. He cures cancer with, guess what? Marijuana, THC. The cannabis plant is the plant of renown. They told us about 2,000 years ago in the Bible. It cures cancer. It stops post-traumatic stress syndrome. And, I think it's a little measure of success that we've got 20 years of, or we got 20 states, 20 states that you can now smoke a joint if you bribe a doctor. If you bribe a doctor, right. One state now that you can smoke it and you don't need to bribe nobody. You can grow it in your backyard. And one state, and one of the things that one of my goals is to get that same laws and the same privileges, the same rights in every state. Because I was kind of excited about it. I was kind of excited about it when we got medical marijuana in Arizona, I said, wow, maybe for the first time I won't be a criminal, and maybe the first time in 45 years I won't be a criminal when I light up a joint. But guess what? I couldn't get it because I wasn't sick. I wasn't sick enough to qualify for medical marijuana. I said, well, you stupid son of a bitches, this is why I'm not sick, because I've been smoking it for 45 years. I've been a lawbreaker for 45 years.
Had my son had that, he was taking 750 milligrams of morphine a day, and he had to go back to work, or they said they would fire him because they did not give him long-term disability, one of these big oil companies, because they said he had a sore throat 6 months before, so it was pre-existing. He would have been dead in 6 months had he had cancer before. But at any rate, he was on all that morphine, an expensive deal. Had he had medical marijuana, he would have been so much more comfortable, not so much in pain. He couldn't swallow for 7 weeks. He just had a PET scan in February, and he is back to work, so he survived it, thank God. But they don't want medical marijuana, because then they wouldn't be able to sell you all these expensive drugs.
That's right.
And that's what it is. It's in the drugs. So that's
right.
why they're so against it. To have our police department, sheriff's department, and the jails bust people for that, you never ever heard of anybody going out and killing somebody in an accident that was on marijuana. That's alcohol. But that's legal. And smoking will kill you. They know that. That's legal. But a plant that God put on earth to help people, medicinal qualities, and there are medicinal plants all over the world. They don't want that because then it would cut into their drug money.
I have published their markups. The markups on pharmaceuticals, Valium, and all that are thousands of percent, 2,000 or 3,000% markup on these drugs. They weren't $40,000 to treat your son for cancer, and cancer has Dr. Brzezinski has cured cancer down there in Houston. You need to talk to him. You know, and even so, they're not making these cures available. Everybody's profiting off of you being sick. The doctors don't make a damn dime if you're well. Doctors
That's right. The doctors and the research companies, the drug companies, they don't make anything. I mean, if you're well, they want you sick. And it's a shame that this is a plant. It should not be governed by anybody because it's a plant. And it is in Denmark. You're allowed to grow it on your patio, on your balcony, 6 plants for personal use.
Yes.
And you're allowed to do that as long as you're not growing it to sell it. You're allowed to do that. And their crime rate, the officials and the police are free to catch murderers and rapists and kidnappers. They're not, to chase somebody down in the city of Houston for having pot in their car, they cause more wrecks and deaths trying to chase these people down than people die of marijuana. And you never heard of anybody dying of that.
Nobody has ever died. Nobody has ever died from smoking marijuana.
No. No, and I think eventually they're going to have to make it legal in the state of Texas. They're going to have to because they're spending too much money on chasing people that are innocent and are doing it to chill out, to relax, so that they don't go out and kill somebody and don't go out and drive drunk. And I applaud you for bringing that to light because the drug companies are just continually to make money, and if you don't have insurance, you basically die of cancer. And
45 years
it's a
ago.
real shame.
Kathy, 45 years ago, I got caught with marijuana here in Texas. They threatened me with doing 99 years. They could give me a 99-year sentence. So I took their little plea bargain, and I got 7 years in a Texas penitentiary.
Oh, dear.
I did.
Now,
I wrote books. I wrote books while I was there, and because I really wanted to, I just had to make use of the time that I spent.
yeah.
So I wrote books about the United States in a future time, science fiction books about a future time when victimless crimes had been abolished, the police state had been dismantled, and you could do anything you wanted as long as you didn't hurt anyone else in 46 states. It was so radical, such a radical novel, that I couldn't even get a publisher. And
have you tried recently to publish it?
well, I carried that story around, which I wrote on a typewriter on a prison bunk. I carried it around in an envelope, in a box, for 45 years. I now have it on computer. I am now in the process of editing it. And one of my guests that'll be on my show sometime in the future was the largest drug smuggler, brought in more marijuana, brought in tons of marijuana to this country. He got caught, he did time. After he made a few $1 million from an illegal substance. And that's why it's illegal. That's why they keep it illegal, because they control it. They use the illegals to bring the illegal substances up here. And it's, matter of fact, just yesterday I did a show on the second half of the show on the Border Patrol, talking about them trying to set up more smuggling routes into this country. What should happen is they should abolish all laws against victimless crimes. That would be constitutional. And then open up the borders, tear down the fences and put up tables, and allow the Mexicans, the Colombians, the Peruvians to bring all of their products up here, their agricultural products up here. Bring that coca, lay it on the table. Bring that heroin, lay it on the table. Bring that opium, lay it on the table. Bring the marijuana, lay it on the table. And then Americans buy what they want and end this whole prison industrial complex. This is what the Free American is about. If a man with a badge can walk up, what's that in your pocket, son? What's that in your pocket? Whoa, is that drugs? Was that drugs? Whoa, you're going to go to jail and you're going to work for IBM for the next 10 years for 25 cents an hour. That's what we're facing here. That's what we're facing.
More importantly, I think if they allowed you to grow it here, like they do in Denmark, you wouldn't have people breaking into houses. You wouldn't have people going to jail, and we pay, $45,000 a year just to house one inmate.
That's right.
And I don't know why, because they don't pay prison guards that much, and they don't provide them with good food. So why is it $45,000 a year to house one prisoner? To me, the police need to be cracking down on more important things, and I guarantee you, most of those police, they hate going after somebody for that, because they're probably, just disgusted with it, like everybody is, that they're having to waste their time busting these, people for a small amount. But they are, they're doing their job, or they think they're doing their job, but 95% of people in Texas are using that. And you can't arrest the whole state. It's just like we don't have gambling here, because you've got the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who don't want gambling. They don't want medical marijuana, but they'll go ahead and do a late-term abortion where they pull apart babies' arms and legs to abort them, but no, you can't have marijuana.
Well, that's what that's the novels that I wrote 45 years ago. The so-called Christian conservatives, right-wing Christian conservatives that you talk about, they all moved to the 4 states in my novels. These are novels, fiction novels. They moved to the 4 states where they have the same laws that they have today here in Texas. Those 4 states in my fiction novel was Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Louisiana was a free state. The rest of the states were free states, but they would bust people coming across Texas with pot or coke that they bought in New Orleans. They would, so it was still the same racket they got today. Today, George Bush or the CIA directors, the Mossad directors, Michael Harari, George Bush, bring the cocaine into this country. They distribute it around the country. They sell it to you and then put you in prison for buying it. And certainly they know who's going to buy it because they're bringing it in. This is the black operations that's going on with the CIA, with the Mossad, and of course the Chinese are going to get involved in this. The Russians are involved in this. That's why the Russians were in Afghanistan. That's why we're in Afghanistan and that's why we've gone after Colombia. We've sent our troops down to Colombia to wipe out the Medellin cartel, so we can set up our own Cali cartel. This is what's happening, folks, and it's not until you realize this is all a scam. It's one of the books that I read when I was in prison, and I read a lot, was Ayn Rand, who said the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us.
That is a quote. That's a quote. That's true.
Yes. And this is what I'm
talking about. They're getting more and more control over us. The federal government is sticking their nose, thanks to Obama, into places they shouldn't be, and unless people stand up to it and say, hell no, it's going to continue to be that way. But we're graduating we're graduating from colleges, people that have no ideals anymore. It's the me generation. They care about selfies. They care about their own little world, and they don't realize the ramifications down the road. They don't look at the big picture. And my son in China has been, when he does get a piece of paper, he writes. And so I have kept all of his emails, all of my conversations with him in writing. So when and if he comes back, we'll be able to publish something that maybe can help other families who are going through the same thing. And it's important to note, he is the only American detainee in Jiaoming, China, out of 50,000 detainees. He's the only American. And a newspaper in Michigan, where he went to elementary school there for a couple of years before we moved here, they did a story on him, and there's a new story coming out on him this past week, and they want to expose as much as they can, but again, people don't. They're so far removed. They're far removed from our veterans. They're far removed from what's going on. That's why military families are so close. Motorcycle families are so close. And Vietnam vets are so close because it's a different kind of family. But normal people, unless you hear it on programs like yours, they're just so far removed that they don't know what they can do to help. And to say don't buy anything from China, that's impossible because everything is made. As I said, if you go on jiveworld.com, you'll see the millions of products in your grocery store that come from China. And if you can see that, everything from Pringles to baby food, it's all manufactured over there and shipped back over here. And we don't think anything of it because we're looking at the cheap prices, but the reason why it's cheap is because it is slave labor being used. All those detainees are doing that. Hobby Lobby wouldn't even answer the press when they called him and asked him about it. Walmart said, oh, well, we don't agree with that and we don't do that. But my son said there are two big signs right over where they work. And one says Hobby Lobby and the other says Walmart. And the chemicals hanging heavy in the air. And he has not seen outside in a year and a half. And they keep the lights on 24/7. He sleeps on cardboard on concrete. So when and if he comes back in 60 days, he's going to need medical. He's going to need dental. Also, they have a commissary. You're allowed one razor for 25 people. You have to share a razor. There's no hot water. They have buckets of water. So he's going to need a lot of retraining from over there. And the State Department knows what's going on, but they're powerless. So I don't know. They don't mess with China at all because we're a nation of weenies now, thanks to Obama. Nobody respects us. They have more respect for Putin than they do Obama because he's a leader. But this country is, if we don't stand up to the federal government, he's going to continue making decisions without asking, and we're going to pay the price. And I'm really interested to see what's going to happen, what he's going to do right before he leaves office. And I know that we'll be in a war. Of course, Senator Biden's son is now on the oil and gas board in the Ukraine.
Yes.
And we just donated $15 billion to Ukraine, and they're going to be taken over too. And that's a conflict of interest. I don't understand it. But this political state that we're in has to stop. We have to become a nation of 1960s again.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what ended the war.
I sold peace symbols, patches, stickers for your cars to every Kmart, every Spencer's Gifts, every head shop in the country in the 60s. I helped stop the war. We were smoking joints, and we were fighting a illegal war. There was no Gulf of Tonkin. I've been in this battle for 45 years. This is one of the reasons I got put in prison. This is one of the
I remember I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the time in the 60s, and that's where the Black Panthers started, and that's where there were a lot of demonstrations. And it wasn't against the men, the soldiers, it was against the government. But they turned it around and made it like the people who wanted to stop the war were the bad guys. And what they didn't realize is we were all for stopping it because of the soldiers that were there and what they were going through. But the government turned it around on them.
You mentioned Biden, and Joe Biden brags about being a Zionist. The Zionists are our enemies here. They hide behind the Jews. They hide behind the Jewish people, and they've been doing that for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Before Christ, they were using the Jews. The Romans were using the Jews to conquer Palestine and all that. I just had a conversation with a lady that does my bookings. Now, I did have some new guests that were supposed to be on today, and I never got a phone number for them. I never got a hold of them, and then they canceled right at the last minute. We've got some other things planned. So the lady from Special Guest sent me some emails on Skype and told me to check out some new guests they had. And I said, okay, before I take on a new guest, I want a phone number and be able to talk to them before I list them. Oh, okie dokie. And she said she wanted to know if I would interview religion types, and I said, I do not care to interview Jews or Zionists. Zionists?
Right.
What's that? I said, and she said, is that related to minions? No. I said, she said, I never heard of that. I said, Zionists, like Vice President Joe Biden. Well,
right.
she never heard of him either. I said, he's our vice president, second in command to Obama. Well, okay, that's good to know. Is it true that there are so many corrupt political figures in the U.S.? This woman's in the Philippines. She's in the Philippines right now.
I see.
And I said, well, absolutely. Absolutely. And Zionists run Israel and the U.S. political system. They call themselves neocons here. She said,
of course they do.
She says, is that the reason why the economy is so bad in the U.S. nowadays? I said they called themselves Bolsheviks when they took over Russia to form the Soviet Union and murdered 60 million Russian Christians.
Right.
When did they do that?
Nobody hears about that.
I said from about 1903 to the fall of the Soviet Union a few years ago, the banksters have stolen all of our property, and those banksters have not gotten caught yet. I said Stalin was in league with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who pledged the American people as collateral for the banksters. He murdered over 69 million Russians. Our president referred to him as Uncle Joe. Then the communists took over China, and murdered another 100 million Chinese.
Yeah, I said don't hear about that either.
And they have killed millions, hundreds of millions of Americans in the last 100 years. But they control the press and the news service and don't tell us what is really happening. They call it abortion, heart disease, cancer. They poison our food, water, and air. She said, oh, that is horrible. Yes. And if you try to tell people you are demonized, marginalized, or killed, or at least they try to.
Well, the Chinese also are trying to take over some islands in the Philippines and in Vietnam right now. And we're sending troops to Nigeria to help search for the girls that have been taken. And we've sent so much money to Ukraine, and that's going right in Putin's pocket, if not Biden's son's pocket. So there is an oil and gas interest in Ukraine, or Biden's son wouldn't be on that board. And I am so sick of hearing about 6 million Jews being killed. There were not just 6 million Jews during Hitler's time. There were Catholics, there were Protestants, there were many people from different countries. It wasn't just that, but that's all you hear about. And every time I hear that number, it just makes the hair on the back of my head stand up, because I worked for Michael Dell at Dell Computer, and he is, he hires Jewish people before he hires anyone else. And most of his customers were all up in the Northeast. So they made him rich. And every time the anniversary of D-Day, and every time we always had to have this big assembly where he would go directly into, well, this is what they did, they killed 6 million Jews. And I'm like, no, they killed Catholics too. Anybody who didn't even look right, because he was nuts. And it's not just about the Jews.
All right, hold on just a second here. I got bumper music now. All right, bumper music at the top of the hour. Now you'll hear about Truth Radio. music. I love it.
Discover what's really going on in the world that mainstream media won't tell you. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out there.
You know, either a person who needs help, a person who doesn't need help, or a person who doesn't need help and doesn't really care about anybody who needs help. Or maybe you're a member of the fourth group, a person who doesn't need help and really enjoys helping other people. Now, if you're in that last group, you have enough to live on and you really do enjoy helping other people. I want to invite you to visit our new website, www.enjoyhelping.com. That website is intended to be a kind of Craigslist gathering place for people who genuinely need help and want to tell you in their own words about their need, and then you come to their rescue and contact them, figure out if they're really genuine or not, and provide them for help. This is a meeting place for people in need and people who enjoy meeting needs. Enjoyhelping.com. That's www.enjoyhelping.com.
All right.
Okay, I just wrote down that website.
Good. Then you are instinctively doing exactly the right thing. You know, this is what this is about, man. I mean, people, I didn't start doing the show 25 years ago to get rich. I did it because I swore that I would not watch something happen like Waco again without doing something. So I did two things. I started this magazine, I started this radio show, and I started the militias. Now, didn't stay in it, not a career with me, but the bikers here that are doing, they've done tremendous work. They ran the Muslims out of Washington, D.C., and they are doing exactly what, this is Memorial Day, this Sunday, they're doing exactly what American Spring, another Zionist, Israel-loving, Jew-loving Colonel Harry Riley wanted to do. That was just an Israeli false flag to try to pull people away from what they're supposed to be doing, try to get them to spend their money to come there to accomplish absolutely nothing. Rolling Thunder does more every year on Memorial Day than Colonel Riley will ever do. And it's the bikers that do it.
I want to point out, too, that the bikers not only do that, but they, around the holidays, they do so much for children that don't have. They do so much for sick children. They donate their blood, their time, their efforts, their charity to a lot of things, and people look at bikers. They don't respect them on the road, and they do so much for this country, and they would be the first ones to stand up had we had a problem while Congress is hiding. And I would have so much respect for them.
I raised my sons, and I told them, if you're ever in trouble, flag down a biker, go to a biker, he'll help you, the cops won't.
That's right.
And, you know, if, like Biker Joe Warren said, you know, so some of you people out there think we're trash, but there's a lot of little poor kids that know Santa rides a two-wheel sleigh. We have toy runs every year, and we see that those children got a full belly and got a teddy bear under the tree. So
that's right.
I published biker magazines for 25 years, and I will continue to do that. The Free American is really a biker magazine. It's published by a biker. My first club went to the Banditos. My second club went to the Hells Angels. I don't fly a patch because I work for you all. I work for you all. And I'm really happy to have you on the show, Kathy.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you invited me.
Well, I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to tell you that there's no dividing line here. There is no dividing line here. We get lost in this. Well, I'm a good Baptist. Well, yeah, you know, you're a Catholic. You're a Muslim. You know, this divide and conquer. That's what they do. We need to bring together. And your son is a victim, just like the MIAs, just like the POWs. Some of them may still be. Maybe they've adapted. Maybe you know, living in Thailand ain't a bad deal. I got a friend of mine that does Daytona Beach every year. Got a shop there, John's Rock and Ride, on Main Street in Daytona Beach. He's open year round. And but he went to Thailand. He lived in Thailand for a while. He loved it over there. So maybe there's some of the veterans, some of our soldiers decided, you know, well, they ain't gonna support me. You know, they wouldn't let us win the war. Wouldn't let us win the war. We had rules of engagement, so we couldn't bomb any of Rockefeller's oil rigs in North Vietnam. We couldn't do that. We couldn't do this. We couldn't go off the Hanoi trail there. So maybe they just stayed. Maybe they said it ain't worth going back. But your son. Well,
I think their economy is such that they didn't want to grow old here and just be tax and insurance poor. And they're happy where they are. And we make a mistake of thinking that the streets are paved with gold over here. Other countries see that, and it's not. You're tax and insurance poor. Even people have to work 2 jobs to make it. But I blame the women's movement on that because you know, it's important to raise good citizens, and now you know, the women. Yeah, that's the source of one of my books that I'm writing too. It's how the women's movement screwed it up for all of us. They were happy. They were, you know, all the men were working. They had jobs. And then when the women's movement came about, they wanted these strong, tough guys to be sappy and sensitive. And now they don't even know how to talk to women because they're afraid they're going to say something wrong. And our veterans, you know, to me, those are the real men of the 60s and the 70s and the 50s and beyond that, you know, are the real men of this generation. And women, all of a sudden, they said, okay, we got what we wanted. Now they have to work because, you know, because of the economy. So they're raising kids and having to work, and it's their own fault. But that's another story.
Well, we have, right now, we have what we started. This show is important. We'll try to get it around to as many people. I've got another show that I'll be doing tonight in Canada. We need to, I need to be on a lot of other people's shows. I've got a publishing company that I've had for 20 years, CRD Publishing. I've got books here. I'm working with the Republic of Texas, or the Texas Independence Movement. They print my books. They publish them. I've got them up on PDF now. What I've tried to do is decide to cut Hearst Paper Company out of the loop. I don't pay $4,000 a month to print a magazine on paper, but the same magazine that you paid $5 for in Barnes & Noble, if you could find it, if they didn't hide it behind the cookbooks, you could you can read it today by going online, going to freeamerican.com. I've got the first 11 issues free up there. All you got to do is go there and click on it, and you can read it.
Okay.
And the May issue, the April issue, and the June issue, you can get for $2.99. You want to print it off and carry it around in your hand?
I want to encourage everybody to do that and to donate to you because you are the voice of not just Texas, but you're the voice of America. Every biker out there, every veteran out there, Anybody who's disgusted with the federal government needs to support you and make sure that you continue what you're doing and donate to you. And that's what I have to say in closing on this.
That's not closing. I would like, I can't do this alone, folks. Right now, I'm trying to raise some funds because I had to put my Harley in the shop. That's my only transportation, and that ain't exactly a whine. I don't mind the Harley being my only transportation, but something broke in it. I got a camshaft that went bad in it. I had a knock in the engine, so I had to put it into the shop. Now I have to raise $1,500 to get it out of the shop. So it's a little bit of desperation. I've had things set up here because I won't sell advertising. Because if I don't know the people, if I don't know the product, I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to let somebody pay me to try to sell you something that may be a piece of shit. I won't do that.
Right.
And so, I exist on donations. I got donation links up on the website. You can send it by PayPal, or if you got a credit card, you just got to click on the little left-hand side of the thing and send it by PayPal. It's still through PayPal, but it's just take a credit card. And so I need your help, folks. I need your help to do that. But what I'm doing here, and my guest today, she's got a problem too. Her son is in prison in China, and I'm glad that I found out about it in time to bring her on. I'm going to have her back, and I'll be talking about this and keeping this in front of you. This will be up on my website from now on. We'll have links to the GoFundMe.com that's got the whole story on there. You can read her whole story, and you can make a donation there.
I appreciate that, Clayton.
Well, and you are doing a service for me. What you just said is the truth. You bikers out there, you veterans out there, I've got plans to set up villages on self-sufficient family farms, recreate self-sufficient family farms, staff them with veterans, low-cost structures, teepees, yurts,
right.
Can house veterans. I think having a homeless veteran is a black mark on this country. It's a black mark on America.
Yes.
If we don't support our vets, and it was the Vietnam vets that started Rolling Thunder. It was the Vietnam vets that the FBI considers the greatest paramilitary group out there. It's like the ADL came after me, putting me in my name in the Free American in Armed and Dangerous. I called them up in New York. I said, "This is Clay Douglas. I just wanted you assholes to know you got something right. I am armed. You threaten my country or my family, I'm definitely dangerous." That's where we are, folks.
That's right, and that's your right.
War. We're in a war here, and let me go back to this lady here that I was talking to. She's doing bookings. She's had some guests up, and some of her guests are they're really actually doing a pretty good job telling you how to get healthy, telling you how to get slim, how to lose some of that excess weight. Doing pretty well, but she didn't know, and the American people don't know what's going on. She said, "Well, that's scary. The people are being killed here." I said, "Every city in America is putting poison in our public water supply. It's called fluoride. But why? And then how can you make sure you're drinking safe water?" I said, "They're putting aluminum and barium in those trails and telling people it is just JetCon trails. You got to drink water that's been cleaned by reverse osmosis. They want to reduce the population of the world to a manageable 500 million. They wrote that in stone. Look up the Georgia Guidestones, folks. She asked, is mineral water safe? I said, I don't know. She said, that's awful. I've never heard of news like that before. I said, well, I've got a guest on today whose son is in prison in China. And she said, well, women give birth every second, so no one can control the population. I said, they can if they kill us or convince the women to have an abortion. In China, it's a crime to have more than one child.
That's right.
She said, well, they kill all the girls, too. I said, yes.
Well, they have a doctor there who actually delivered healthy babies, but told the parents the baby had died, and then he sold them on the black market to the tune of 40,000 babies.
Where was this, in China?
This is in China.
They've done the same thing
in Shanghai.
They've done the same thing in Canada. As a matter of fact, in Brussels, a common law jury has indicted the Pope and the Queen of England for doing the same thing.
Right.
And I told this woman they killed 50 million babies. They killed 50 million babies here in the last 10 years. And she said, how do they kill babies? It's called abortion. And why don't we know about it? Why is there nothing in the news, she said. I said, because they don't want you to know the truth. The bankers own the news. They own the TV, the newspapers in Hollywood. We're supposed to be good slaves.
But they're okay with doing abortions, even late-date abortions. They're okay with that. But someone who is 85 years old, who's done his time, who is a veteran or not, they are against letting him die with dignity the way he wants to die. But they would rather keep him alive for years in pain and his family in pain when all he wants to do is be relieved of that. They won't do it. But they're okay with killing babies. I don't understand that either.
Well,
and the other thing, Clayton, you know, if I can interject this,
yes,
you said something about fluoride. Then why is it that when you doctors say you can give babies water, but don't let them swallow anything with fluoride in it, but yet our tap water has fluoride in it? And they don't want you to let babies swallow toothpaste, anything with fluoride in it. So that's kind of calling the kettle black.
Yep. Well, this woman, this booking agent, she said, well, the best thing to do with a situation like that is just go with the flow unless someone dignified enough stands up to them. And I said, that's kind of what I do. I've been doing that for 25 years. What do you mean, kind of what you do? I said, I stand up to expose and resist tyrants, dictators, and criminals. When I volunteered for the Army, I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And then she asked, well, does the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines stand up for the same thing? Or are they just followers of bankers, too? I said, the armed forces are just like the populations they were recruited from. They are trained to follow orders. But you said the bankers controlled almost everything. I said, you know, I applied for OCS, Officers Candidate School. I took a test and was turned down. And I asked why. I told them I had never failed a test. They said, you didn't fail a test. You scored so high they won't let you be an officer. Anyone with your IQ will question orders.
Right.
And I said they sacrificed our young men in wars we were never intended to win. Wars based on lies like Iraq and Vietnam. Afghanistan is about drugs. They use our troops to guard the opium poppy fields those nasty old Taliban were destroying. She said, well, that is horrible, but they will all answer to the Creator up above. I said, she said, when the time comes, God is watching them. They will deal with the Lord when the time comes. Well, that's more of the religion bull that they're holding out. Be a good slave. The Apostle Paul, who was really the Pharisee named Saul, tells you in the Bible, be a good slave. Don't rebel against your masters. And she said, well, God has a plan for everybody, and what is happening must be left in God's hands, because nobody can stop those kind of people. Nobody brave enough to do so. I said, you know, God has kept me alive and instructed me on what to do. With His help, I will stop them. He sent you to me. This is the 21st century. God is alive and well and uses the internet.
Well, you know, I feel like I'm one little woman alone in this, and you know, having to even think of what my son is going through for nothing. He's going through this for nothing, and he has an IQ just short of Mensa. He was reading college books in the 7th grade, and he's asked me to send him books to occupy his time at night. They never turn the lights off in a year and a half, so he's asked for heavy-duty books, things he can learn from while he's in there, and I've sent boxes of books to the tune of $200 just to FedEx it, because they'll only accept FedEx, and he never gets them, and they confiscate everything, all his photography equipment, you know, his phone, his tablet, everything he had, his clothes. He's wearing a rope to hold up his pants because he's lost so much weight. And what bothers me is when I have an email from the U.S. consulate, and he just saw him last Monday, and he said they're not allowing phone calls anymore to you, and I was hanging on that every month waiting to hear his voice. And he said he looks the same as he did when he got arrested, and I know that's a lie. Why they're protecting their own little job and protecting their own, again, because they're afraid of China. And nobody will stand up and say, you need to release him now. They won't even give me the courtesy of, you know, responding to my emails, calls, and certified letters. So it's really a travesty that this smart kid is going to lose his life over this. And I will be going to pick up his ashes. And I try not to think that way.
Don't think that way. Don't think that. Thoughts become reality. And I can visualize your son getting off the plane and us picking him up and having a crowd of people around to welcome him home. That's what I want you to picture.
So.
That's what I want you to picture. And I am right now working on the May issue of the Free American magazine. Originally, I'm going to be talking about 9/11. I'm also going to be talking about the whole UFO conspiracy, because I pulled down information from the Disclosure Project, and that turns out that I was absolutely right about what I've told people. I said the reason the UFOs are so top secret is they don't want you to know that we could have lunch on the moon and be back in time for dinner without using a drop of gasoline, a drop of fuel, a drop of petroleum. We've got that technology, and
amazing.
It could be a wonderful world powered by magnetic generators, our ships powered by anti-gravity. We had that technology 10,000 years ago. They've hidden it from you. They don't want you to know about it. And I wrote books about that too. These are all books that we will be publishing and distributing this year if I get a little bit of help. And that's
I encourage everybody to help you. They don't have to be done.
Well, I'm going to do my best to make it worth your while to help me promote this magazine, because the story of your son and what he's going through and what you're going through are going to be in this May issue of the Free American.
I appreciate that so much. I've given me a lot of help.
Well, we've got to do this. We've got to work together. We've got to work together. Oh, I just got this in. Barack Obama's kids go to a school with 11 armed security officers.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Obama pretending to be a Muslim. That's a great cover for a Mossad agent. Yet he wants your kids protected. He wants your kids protected by a gun-free zone. And we actually have answers for that, too. Instead of going to a prison-like college, a high school where they're training you to be prisoners, we've got Timothy Bible College and we got the Little Red Schoolhouse. You can get your degree. I'm working on my master's degree right now. I kind of like the handle of Dr. Douglas.
Oh.
So I'm working on my master's degree in divinity and political science. It's all they're linked. They're absolutely linked. And I'm on the board of directors for Timothy Bible College. We're going to be promoting that. It's promoted in every magazine. It's promoted on my website. We have answers here. My whole plan for Liberty Villages. Again, you got a farm? You got a ranch? Can you run it by yourself? Can you go up and plow up 5 acres all by yourself? You know, no. But we can house veterans. We can feed them. We can provide shelter. And they can provide labor, and they can protect us if things go wrong. This is what the veterans were trained for. As a matter of fact,
Exactly.
I've got in my film, True Face of FEMA, a special forces guy steps up and says, you know, they're being told, FEMA's saying we need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people because some of them won't follow orders. Green Beret stands up and says, well, you know, we were trained to go into a country and go into a town and organize the people, teach them how to take care of themselves, teach them how to defend themselves. Why not just send us out across America? Well, I think that's a pretty good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And he was told, no, you're going to be over in Afghanistan, you're going to be in Iraq, you're going to be in Iran, you're going to be somewhere else. We're going to send you out of this country. We're going to send you over to have the Nigerians kill you or to have the Iraqis killing you. They don't want you here protecting and organizing, teaching Americans.
Right.
That's what we need to do. That's what the Free American is about. And the Free American is here to bring stories like yours, Kathy, to the forefront. Keep it in front of people. And I urge everybody that's listening to the show, if you go to a public meeting and you got a congressman, you got to say, what about this guy? What about this guy? I mean, I just read about this in the Free American. I just heard about this on the Free American. Why aren't you doing something? Why isn't the government doing something of this? What are we letting China do this for? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
Right. Ask the question why over and over and over again. Why to everything. It's a very powerful question. Just the word why.
It's Mark Swindan. And
Mark Swidan, yes.
Swidan, S-W-I-D-A-N.
Uh-huh.
And
S-W-I-D-A-N.
S-W-I-D-A-N, yes ma'am.
Uh-huh.
And that will be linked up on the website, and I'm going to make a special donate. We'll put a picture markup. We'll put a link for the donate and the share on Facebook.
Well, I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. And when he comes home, and I say when because you give him so much encouragement now, you'll be the first to know. And I hope everybody comes out and gives him a huge welcome, just like a POW, because that's exactly what he is. He's a prisoner of this new war, economic, federal doomslaying that the United States does with China. They could do a lot more than they're doing, but they're a government of non-respect for the rest of the countries. They don't respect us anymore, thanks to Obama, and now he considers himself somewhat of a king instead of working for us, and it's really something to be fearful of. If people don't stand up and say what they think, and look at the big picture and have some ideals, then it can only get worse. But people like you need to be out there telling the truth, and the truth will set you free, and that's really the bottom line. The truth will set everybody free, and so everybody, please, support Clay and what he's trying to do, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, it's just something that has to be done, just like the Marine said, no man left behind. And I know exactly what is happening here, because they've tried to do that to me. They tried to kill me, then they tried to destroy my family. They tried to destroy any support that I had, because I was making a difference. I was putting out 20,000 magazines a month and selling advertising and running it like a business. And they said,
well, I certainly am putting it out on my Facebook, and I've told everybody I know, and I know a lot of that, a lot of guys. In fact, I was one the other night, a friend of mine who said there is a soldier in Mexico right now. He went to the border, actually, because there were no markers. He had because he was in a military uniform, active duty, and I put him in a Mexican jail, and he's been there, and no one can seem to get him out. And the government is also ignoring him. And I don't have his name or anything, but I know why we're not negotiating his release. He's another forgotten person.
Yeah, he made a wrong turn and went across the border and had a couple of rifles in his car because he was moving, and he just made a wrong turn. And I'll try to get more information of him up too.
Now that may be the same person. I don't know. I'll try to find out what his name is.
I believe it is. And let's see, I'm putting the pictures up of your son right now with the links to this show and everything else here. It's this is what we got to do, folks. This is what we got to do, and that's why I need you to make some donations. You make it, if you make a donation to me, then more and more people are going to hear about this. More and more people are going to know about this. And this is just what we've got to do here. We are under attack. Our people are under attack, and we've got to stand up against this.
Well, if there's anything that I can do, I plan on donating today to you, and if there's anything I can do further, be sure and let me know. And I've been online all night getting the word out to people and making sure they follow your show and donate to it, and that's what I can do for now for you. But if there's anything else that you need me to do, feel free to ask.
Well, come down and have a cup of coffee.
Okay, that sounds good. Unfortunately, like your motorcycle, my car has got two sides that need work on, so as soon as I get that fixed, I will be sure and do that.
All right, we get Mark's picture up here. And I wanna play. I've got a new video up on Facebook that I think people need to know about and need to see. This whole thing about Israel, about the Jewish controls, about the Zionist controls. People have been so deceived. Oh, the Jews are God's chosen people. No, ma'am, they're not. They're what Jesus warned about. The Jews who say they're Jews but are not are of the synagogue of Satan. And let's listen a little bit here to this. If you want to stay with me for a minute.
Okay.
We've got a few minutes left here. Hopefully it's working here. That one ain't working too good. Let me try to do it from this one.
We shall have a Jewish world government. Whether or not we like it, the question is only whether world government will be achieved by consent or by conquest. James Warburg, Jewish merchant banker. Our ruling crime families are not dumb. In fact, they're getting smarter and faster. They know it's the end game. They know it's either us or them. It took them a while to work out that it is cheaper to go from A to B, riding their horse to death and replacing it with a new one, rather than watering, feeding, and giving it rest when it gets tired. So, they replaced feudalism and open slavery with capitalism. Then, they figured that it is more profitable to groom the smartest and most ambitious kids on the block and entice them with a privileged lifestyle in return for their help with outsmarting their fellow men with trickery and evil scams. So they gave us soft-spoken psychopaths and mild-mannered mass murderers in their own corporate boardrooms.
Can you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, hang on.
The most ruthless of those smart kids end up with multi-billion-dollar fortunes, not for them to use at their sole discretion, but to put to good use in the stealth enslavement of mankind. Those Bill Gates, George Soroses, Eric Schmidts, and Mark Zuckerbergs know all too well that their fortunes will be wiped out overnight if they don't do as they're being told. That's why every copy of MS Windows and the Mac OS has a backdoor to Mossad and the NSA. That's why Bill Gates donates billions to mass sterilization programs disguised as vaccinations and invests heavily in Monsanto and chemtrails. That's why George Soros spends hundreds of millions on campaigns to help disarm the American people and overthrow governments that refuse to follow the orders of the ruling parasites. That's why Eric Schmidt has transformed his search engine into a corporate Big Brother, and Mark Zuckerberg his social networking application into a spying tool that knows everything about you, your family, your friends, your likes and dislikes, and even your most private thoughts. It is no coincidence that most of these smartest kids on the block who sold their soul to the devil are Jewish. Not only does the Jewish mindset uniquely enable them to do the most horrible things to their fellow men without having a bad conscience, provided they are not Jewish, their Jewishness also provides them with a highly effective armor, the Judeo-Bolshevik narration of the Jewish Holocaust. Anybody disclosing the truth about their evil doings is immediately suspected of being motivated by evil, irrational anti-Semitism. Never mind that 97% of Jews are no Semites, but the descendants of converted Moroccan Berbers and Mongolian Turk Huns and their Andalusian, respectively, Germanic rape victims. And if maliciously accusing someone of criminally insane racial hatred just for telling the truth wasn't bad enough, our ruling parasites and their Jewish minions systematically use the label of anti-Semitism to silence anyone who criticizes their wrongdoings. Usually, they hide behind some wishy-washy community standards, which magically always seem to kick in when someone says something. Comments, videos, and articles are deleted, writers banned, accounts suspended, online payment services cancelled, you name it. All of this is obviously in breach of freedom of expression, which in most countries is guaranteed by law. But that's how tyranny works, doesn't it? If the government cannot perform an act of tyranny because of legal restrictions, it just outsources it to a private corporation, and nobody could do anything about it seems to care. If Congress doesn't allow stationing troops in a foreign country, or is too difficult about what these troops are allowed to do, the government simply outsources the job to private security contractors, the preferred euphemism for mercenaries. If the government can't lock you up for telling the truth or extradite you to a country where they have hate laws suspending freedom of expression, they just make your boss fire you and get you blacklisted by recruitment companies and HR departments of major firms. In such climate, most people no longer dare to be seen talking to, leave alone being friendly with anyone able of critical thinking, for fear of being suspected of harboring similar thoughts. If the government has legal restrictions of how far it can go with spying on its citizens, it just gets the likes of Microsoft, Google, and Facebook to do it for them. Indeed, our ruling crime families are getting smarter and faster, but so are we. They know that this is the end game, but so do we. We might only have started to wake up to the lethal threat corporations in cahoots with tyrannic governments are posing to us, but we are 8 billion people. They are a few hundred monsters and their low-life minions. They have decided that there is no room on this planet for all of us. It is up to us to decide who is going to survive.
All right, that one is on my website, on my Facebook page. And,
well,
Katherine, you still
that
with
was
me?
fascinating.
Well, it's what's happening. I mean, think about
Well,
this. Up on my Facebook page, I've got a detailed look into the chemtrails, what they're spraying, what in the world are they spraying, and this, you have to ask yourself, who's paying for all that gasoline for these planes to crisscross and zigzag and cross over populated areas, putting their poisons in the air? And the poisons interact with the free American. I'm sorry, the chemtrails react with the fluoride in the water. They cover your plants, they cover your land, they cover your water, and the combination is increasing our Alzheimer's, our dementia, and probably just lowering our IQ tremendously.
I believe it. I have to say that on a, I have an acquaintance who works for a major oil and gas company out in West Texas where they do the fracking. All the oil that they get from fracking and destroying the ground goes directly out of the country. None of it stays in Texas. And on another note, the company I worked for is a satellite company. They built the cloud in Washington, D.C. that monitors everything. And we were told by an email that the government was purchasing $600 million worth of satellite equipment to be given as gifts to various countries, the allies, they said. And if we mentioned anything about it, we could be fired for it. But the federal government paid for all that satellite equipment, and I'm talking about satellites that go on rigs and ships in the Gulf and overseas. And those were given as a gift, paid for by our tax dollars, to various countries, including Pakistan, Afghanistan. They were given as gifts, and our tax dollars paid for it. And that was very disturbing to me, and we couldn't say anything about it. They also make all the satellites that were used in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Everything, all the handhelds, they use that. So someone is listening in on that, and it's not America. Well, that was very disturbing to me and a lot of people at work, but we couldn't say anything about it.
Well, this is probably what's happening with most of these big corporations. My show is blocked into Intel and Intuit, probably HP, Office Depot, and most libraries around the country. They don't want the American people getting this kind of information. They don't want people speaking out against Israel, against these Zionists. I mean, come on, folks. Remember the USS Liberty? That was one of your presidents, LBJ, who was involved with the killing of Kennedy, whose first act as president was to recall the money that Kennedy issued. I carry one of his $5 bills around in my wallet. It says United States note, debt-free money with a red seal, not a green Federal Reserve seal on it. Johnson recalled that, and then recalled all of the support that was supposed to go help the USS Liberty. They were trying to sink it to start another world war. They had atomic weapons already on the way, probably 3 minutes out of Egypt, when the Russians kind of upset their apple cart. And then another president, LBJ. And then we got Bush. Well, you know, come on, guys. Matter of fact, this next issue of the magazine, we'll be talking about all of the presidents here. Truman, Eisenhower, how they've helped cover up the whole UFO thing.
Well, I can't wait to read that.
Well, you're welcome to come help me edit it. I mean, it's again, it's a matter of trying to get everything done, and I can talk to so many people a day. I can book the shows, I can do the website, I can create the banners, I can do all that. I don't mind working 12 hours a day to try to save this country, to try to save the people, to try to, and I don't want to scare people. I'm not Alex Jones here. I don't want you to be afraid, folks. I want you to grow a pair of balls and stand up against these bastards. And, you know, you want to call me anti-Semite? That's a mark of honor for someone like me. That's not your put-downs don't work against someone like me. I know what you are. I know who you are. I know what you're doing. I know what your agenda is, and you know, I can go into a public meeting, and after I've uttered a few words, there'll be 3 people over in the corner whispering and trying to disrupt the meeting, trying to get people to turn against me because they don't want this information going out. It's almost instinctive. It's like a rabbit staring at a wolf. You know, they're afraid of me.
Right.
They're afraid of me because I'm not afraid. I'm not a, you know, I've died 3 times, man. That ain't no big deal.
Well, they should be afraid because when they're not speaking out, they're not saying things that are the truth, it just continues to get worse. And that's why we've been so oppressed in this country, because they're afraid the truth gets out. And the election process is such a sham. They know exactly who's going to be the next president. And your vote doesn't count. And I would like to think that it does, but in the end, I know that they know exactly who's going to be the next president. They're putting them in there. There's a select Templar group of people that are putting them in there. And the next one could be worse, but I don't see how it could be any worse than right now. And I just hope that people stand up for what they believe in and what's right. And it's very simple. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And when the truth comes out, then you feel free. That's how you get freed, by telling the truth. And that's exactly why my son is not ever going to plead guilty to something he didn't do. He wasn't even there. And he continues, and I respect him for that. But as a mother, I just want him home and out of there. So I do appreciate the time you gave me to explain to people what's going on. And I'm sure there's other mothers just like me that can't get any action from the government. They say they're powerless against China, and but they could do it if they wanted to. They could get him out of there.
Yes, they could, and we are going to put the pressure on them. We can do that. From this day on, your son's picture and his story will be at the top of my website, The Free American.
Thank you, Clay.
And
you don't know how much I appreciate that.
Well, it's the right thing to do. That's all. It's just the right thing to do. And you know, if I got thrown in prison, I'd want somebody out there that cared about me. And I care. I care about you. I care about your situation. I care about your son. You know,
I appreciate that.
It's just the right thing to do, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to make this happen. We'll start a letter writing campaign to the State Department. We'll start questioning our state representatives. We'll draft letters so people can just pull them right off the website, put them in the mail, send them in an email, send them to your representatives. And this
sounds good.
Well, this is one of the things that I need you to do. I mean, I will provide the websites. I'll provide all that, but I can't put out every email. And you're already doing this, so we're just working together. Just another vehicle, another tool that we've got. This radio show is a tool that we need to use to educate people and get the help and get you folks out there motivated. You know, I've called myself the canary in the coal mine because I've said because I'm so outspoken, because I'm so forthright, that they will come after me first. They've come after me. They've come after me, but Now, we can fix this. We can do something about this.
Yes, he's there. He's alive. It's not too late. And that's what I need, is the notoriety and some action. And nobody will do that. So I appreciate it so much. You have my support, and I encourage everybody to donate and keep Clay's magazine and his talk show alive, because this is exactly what we need nationwide here.
It will be up. It is being, and it's going up right now, even as we speak.
Oh gosh, thank you.
It's going up, and it will be. It'll be up within the hour, probably. Maybe.
Okay, well, I am definitely going to go on and donate to you, and I encourage everybody to do that for you, because you're a rare bird, and you're doing what's right, and everybody needs to support you.
Well, again, folks, I've never been doing this. I didn't start this to make a lot of money. I didn't start this. It's my job. I started it.
Good people don't care about the money, Clay. Good people do things from their heart or don't do it. It's like asking someone when you know they're in dire straits, what can I do? Can I do? Let me know if I can help you. Instead of just doing it. And don't wait for somebody to ask. Just do it out of your heart, or don't do it at all. And, it's not about the money. It's about doing what's right. But we still live in a world where money is needed to carry on the cause. So it's important. And I certainly will support you. I just thank you so much for having me on today.
I certainly appreciate that. We are out of time, folks. This whole story will be right at the top of my Free American website, freeamerican.com. The show is there forwarded. It's up on Facebook. Go to Facebook, Free American 69, and share this show. The video will be up there on Facebook in about 15 minutes. At least you can see how pretty I am while I'm doing my show. And it's there's certainly nothing humorous about this, but I got to tell you, folks, you just kind of have to learn. We've been at war. It's a war of principalities. It's been going on for thousands of years. The Bible told you about it. And there's no reason to be afraid, and there's no reason to be depressed. You just have to kind of learn to enjoy the battle. And we're going to take care of our POWs and MIAs. The bikers are going to be there in Washington, D.C. Operation American Spring will try to capitalize on 25 years of Rolling Thunder. Riley's going, another Israeli firster is going to try to ride on their coattails, or ride at the head of the bikes. If I was there, he wouldn't have a shot. But this story, Mark's story, is up on my website and will be on there from now on until we get him out. Until he is free, the Free American will be devoted to his story. And Katherine, I'm looking forward to working with you in any way that we can. Because we really don't, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing.
That mainstream media won't tell you. Are you frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out